Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little. This video is a preview of one of my exclusive courses where I go deep on a specific topic to help my students take their game to the next level. I let my students request in-depth topics that they want me to cover, so I make a point to do that. Whatever they ask me to make for them, I do research, I do my diligence, and then I produce excellent content around that helps my students take their game to the next level. If you want to get this course you're about to watch or many of my other courses at 80% off or more, check out pokercoaching.com/holiday sale. Let's get to the video.
All right, so basically this is how we can do sessions through Skype where we can either look at my screen, we can go over, for example, your hand history, or we can look at your screen and I can watch you actually play.
Okay.
So I think both of those will be pretty beneficial ways to go about doing this, at least when we're not in the same place. So, do you have any questions for me or anything you want to tell me about yourself or poker or anything like that before we just hop right into this thing?
Sure. Well, I've been playing for about 11 years. I have some success. I've actually, for the last 4 years, I'm break even in brick and mortar. I've won a few tournaments, small tournaments, like $200 tournaments, $100 tournaments. I had one success, and I played on Card Player, the Schulman site,
Right.
for a long time, and I actually won a Sunday tournament with 2,600 people before, so I've done this before.
Okay.
I think I was thinking about your comments and training, and heads up, I played, I don't know, 300 or 400 times heads up in tournaments, so I think I got that kind of under control.
Okay,
That
excellent.
part of it, yeah.
So the tournaments you normally play when you get deep heads up, what are the stack sizes usually?
They usually 20, 30 blinds or so, I'd say.
Okay, and you feel like you do pretty well in that for the most part?
Yeah, I adjust pretty well to what my opponent's doing, and I adjust, do whatever they're not doing.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds good. I'm definitely going to still want to see some heads up play before we do it, because if you get heads up and you're playing for effectively $1 million, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah, I also know Sage, so worst comes to worst, I don't really use it because my opponents usually don't know, so it's not optimal to play Sage.
Right. Usually the best thing to do when you get short is just to go all in a lot, but it's good to know the numbers so you can always fall back on them in case that's what it boils down to. Okay, so that's good. And have you ever played very many live satellites or one-table satellites?
No, I don't do that at all.
Okay, so I don't think it's a bad thing normally, but it's probably a bad thing for exactly the situation you're in.
Right.
So really, we just have to figure out a way to get all the chips as reasonably as possible without going crazy. Because usually whenever you're playing against good players, the right thing to do in these satellite type games where it's first place is everything and everything else is nothing, is the right play is just to try to win. There is no value in hanging out and folding.
Right.
And that makes these really different from sit and goes because you need whatever your pot odds are to call. There is no ICM involved. So that's going to change things quite a bit. And for example, in the Moshman book, I'm sure that a lot of the spots where he's talking about someone raises and you go all in, that's not going to apply quite as much because your opponents should just call off most of the time. So we definitely have to be aware of that, and that's going to be something that we can discuss that as we go through these hands and other hands and say, if this was the final table, how would things change?
Right, that'd be great.
Okay, so what else do you want to talk about before we go through this thing?
That's probably good for now. We can always fill in details later.
Okay, so what have you studied in poker over the past?
Well, I've read about 50 books. I get Card Player magazine. I read that every 2 weeks. The most influential books were Daniel Negreanu's Power Poker, Gus Hansen's Every Hand Revealed. I went through the first 3 volumes of Winning Poker Tournaments One Hand at a Time, and your 3rd volume. I don't have your first 2 volumes.
Okay, so that sounds all very good. You seem well versed, so that's good. I guess we'll just go ahead and get to it. Do you know anything about your competition besides they're just sort of all free roll winners?
No, they're not necessarily free roll winners. If you deposit money, you get a free token anyway. So they're going to be people who just got there for free. I actually have an extra token. I didn't know I had a token, but I qualified, and now I have a token. So when I talked to the guy at the Brigada, I said, "Can I play in the tournament on Sunday?" He said, "I don't say why not. Just don't win." Because that would make things really. So if you get to the final table, call me. Say we got a problem.
That's funny. And so they give you cash for the other spots, right?
Right. They 370th paid $9 and 340th paid $10, and every 30 people went up $1 or so for a while.
Gotcha. And so they're getting a lot of people on the site, I guess.
Well, it's Party Poker. I think it's Party Poker and Brigada each put up $500,000, and so they combine the two sites. When the Sunday tournament comes along, they have both sites playing at the same time. So some of the opponents I look up, they're not on my site. They're probably on the other site.
Gotcha. Well, that's a cool promotion.
Yeah, it is.
And so is the only way you can actually get to this final table by winning one of these big tournaments?
Yes, they have one tournament every week starting November 1st.
And
this week is the last one.
So I guess they only have 8 of these things. Is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay, so and you didn't have to actually do anything to qualify into this one, right?
Well, I did. On Saturday night I played a 170-person qualifier and I finished 14th.
Okay, so you had to qualify into this one
right.
somehow.
They pay 25 places and I finished 14th.
Okay, so I think that's actually good for you because in order to qualify into this tournament, you have to play another qualifier, and you're going to find that probably most people who actually play high stakes live are not going to be playing the small qualifier initially, just because there's not much of a prize for that. So that's a very good thing for you. It'd be different if, like on PokerStars, for example, every 3 months or something like that, they have what is basically a free roll tournament for everyone, but it's something like $1 million prize pool. And what happens is there is no I think there is a qualification, but it's not much of a qualification. So it's just absurdly soft, but there's so many people in it that it's not really worth playing because your equity is only $1 or something like that.
Right. The equity here was $5, I think, because it's a $10,000 tournament.
Right. Exactly. So, I think it's good though. I think it's good for your situation that you're probably not going to be playing against anyone who's a high stakes regular Borgata or something like that.
Right. The guy who finished second is a 1-2 no limit player.
You say he finished second. What do you mean? In this one that you took first, then does he actually get anything for that?
Yeah, he gets $500. No, that's it. Just $500 or $700 or whatever it was.
Okay, so he's not playing with you in this sit and go though.
No.
Okay, well that's good.
Well, no. Yeah, no. It's only the first, unless he wins this week.
Yeah. So you don't actually know who's playing the sit and go with you.
Well, I asked. He says, I don't think I can tell you.
So it's just going to be a surprise when we show up.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess. Well, actually, we have a dinner with them, dinner and drinks the night before, so I'll meet them there at least.
Do you do much partying?
No.
Okay, good. Don't be go getting drunk the day before.
No, definitely not.
Have some dinner, relax, but don't be getting drunk or anything.
I have one drink, maybe that's it.
Yeah, okay.
That's my limit. My wife doesn't approve, so.
Perfect. Well, that's one less thing we got to worry about then.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want after you're done, but before you can't be partying.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me about anything?
Well, you said I think I'm a quick learner, so, and I know I have a lot to learn. So I don't have a thin skin, so whatever you want to tell me, it's fine. I mean,
I'm very honest when I do my coaching. I'm trying to get you as good as we can as fast as possible. So.
Right. That's my goal. Right.
Well, good. So don't be offended, and I don't think you're going to be. You sound like you said, you want to learn. You're a quick learner, and I can just tell by talking to you for 2 minutes this is going to be a good experience for both of us.
Great.
All right. So I guess we'll start going through this thing. So with Ace King, I'm just going to pretend like every hand is the actual the sit and go that we're going to be playing. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Because I think that's all that's actually relevant.
Actually, here I don't think it's me. My philosophy when I play a huge tournament like this is to take chances, because you gotta take, there's one hand where I had ace king and he had a flush draw. Maybe that was a qualifier, but I mean, he went all in. I have ace and a king kicker, a pair of aces and a king kicker, and I have to call there because it's such a huge tournament. I got to take whatever hands I get. He was bluffing with a flush draw.
Yeah, I think it was actually this one's, because I looked at a few hands before.
Okay,
but
so I mean, in the final table I wouldn't do the same thing. That's what I'm saying. I probably wouldn't quite do the same thing because I have to get through this huge field.
Okay, and yeah, that totally makes sense. But we can just use this as situations to discuss.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so say there was two guys who start limping in early in this tournament. That's going to be a dream if that starts happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
If this is what it looks like whenever we start playing, this is good. I would probably make it 100, but I think 80 is also fine. Because I don't think a lot of guys are going to be folding when they put in 20. And if they do put in 20 and then fold to 100, that's a good result, and we can know that we can continue making it 100 and have fold equity. So we don't have to do it only with good hands.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
Like, stealing it is acceptable.
Right.
You want to be able to steal it in general, but right here we're not really looking to steal, but in general we want to steal, so we want to see if that's even a possibility. So I probably would have made it 100, but 80 is also fine. Just recognize when you make it 80, you're going to get called pretty often by both guys, but that's okay because you're in position. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, and as you see, everybody calls.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a hand then.
Yeah, so they checked you. Of
Yep.
course, you're going to bet the flop, and I'd probably bet 240-ish or so. So 240, that's good. This guy calls. So what are you thinking when this guy calls? What do you think his range is?
I think he probably has a flush draw or a queen. Maybe my main thing is a weaker ace.
Yeah, I would think he's going to have an ace most of the time. I don't think he's going to show up with... I wouldn't think he would show up with a queen too often. Probably not a 6. But at the same time, maybe he just calls with everything. If he has any pair, maybe he'll call.
Okay.
Do you assume he has all worse hands at this point?
Yes.
So we think he never has 2 pair in a slow playing or a
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Not with this stack size here.
You think you would just go ahead and raise with that?
I think so.
Okay.
Because he was afraid of me having an ace and then catching a pair or something, so...
All right, I agree with that. And this guy calls. So what are we thinking about this guy's range when he calls?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think he probably has an ace also a lot of the time, or maybe a draw of some sort.
Okay.
So like you said, so this is a spot where we can't really put the guy on a realistic range because we have no clue who these people are. But at the same point, we need to try to figure out something, right? And even though I don't think we can squarely pinpoint it, I definitely think that it's going to be something, right? It's not just going to be 9-8.
Right. So I kind of unlikely that both have aces, though.
It is unlikely both have aces, but I don't think it's too unlikely that one of them has an ace.
Right. I'm pretty sure one of them must have an ace.
Yeah, I would think most of the time you're going to be against some sort of pair and also against some sort of draw. That's what I would think in general.
Okay.
But it could be both 2 pairs. It could be both 2 draws. So that's what I would think. And they put the 3 up, and what are you thinking at this point?
I'm not liking it very much, but I figure I might as well keep betting.
So why are we betting?
Well, we're betting because I think I still have the best hand.
Okay, so why? I guess the question here is then why do you think you have the best hand? Because the main draw got here, right?
Right. I'm putting still on an ace something. I'm putting on like an ace 10 or ace jack or something like that. That's what I'm guessing he has. Okay,
so I feel like what you're doing is you're putting him squarely on a hand and not on a range.
Yeah. I think that if I just check here, he's going to probably shove anyway because there's $1,200 in the pot. So I'm trying to make like a blocking bet so he doesn't try to shove over me.
So if you bet and somebody shoves, what are you going to do?
Well, then, again, because it's the kind of tournament, I'm going to call. I'm kind of stuck in this hand.
Yeah, so I don't think you can... I mean, like you said, when we go back to the flop, when these guys bet, I was already trying to get you to put these guys on some sort of range of pairs plus draws.
Yep.
And the problem with this is that if these guys have a pair without a draw, like let's say they have ace jack or something, and you bet again, I don't think you're going to get too much action. Maybe you would, but I mean, let's pretend like we're playing the real sit and go, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because that's all that really matters.
Right.
I don't feel like this is a spot where you can realistically bet and expect to get called by too many worse hands. I mean, do you agree with that or not really?
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
So the hands that are going to call you are going to be something with the king of hearts. But notice that most hands with the king of hearts also have either a queen or a 10 or a jack in it.
Mm.
Or possibly a flush already.
Right.
And what else could the guys even have? I mean, they could just have a flush, which you're dead to. So I don't really see you getting too much action unless you're going to be in pretty bad shape most of the time if you bet again.
So this is a case where you're only going to get called by better hands, so it's better to check here and see what happens.
Yeah, so if I was to check and then say this player bet with 1800 and this guy called, I would definitely fold.
Right.
If this guy bet with 1800 and this guy folded, I would... Well, if he bet, like his bet's probably going to be pretty big, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if he bet small, say he bet something like 400, I would probably call and then check call the river. Because then you've induced bluffs. Because your hand no longer looks like top pair, top kicker. Your hand looks like top pair with a bad kicker or a queen or a draw or something. So I think you can be happier getting the money in that way. And if you check and he bets big, like let's say he bets 1200, I'd probably just put the money in then and be fine with that. But I think if you bet, you're going to find that you don't get it in good very often. So you bet 600, and this guy shoves. What do you do if this guy calls?
I fold.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd
Yeah,
be...
definitely. Definitely fold.
Okay, so right here you need to win 25% of the time, and I mean, how do you think you do against this guy's range at this point? Because I don't think you can say he only has flush draws or one pair hands at this point.
Right. I think at the final table, I think it must have a good hand because he's not going to go all in with there's probably 8 people left. Say, there's going to be no way he's going to shove with a worse hand than ace king. So I'd probably fold. Here, they're just crazy people, so I have to call.
Okay, yeah, I agree. If they're just crazy people, then of course you have to go with it.
Yeah, I found that these free tournaments are just full with crazy people.
Have you ever used this program, Poker Strategy Equal?
I used PokerStove a lot.
Okay, so that's good. This is pretty much the same thing.
Right. I actually started to look at that because you recommended it in one of your videos, but I haven't actually used it. I'm sure it's very similar.
Yeah. Okay. So,
looks the same. Yeah.
So what is this? I'm trying to put it up so I can see the board. Okay.
Okay.
So he could easily have the King Jack of Hearts, King 10 of Hearts, Jack 10 of Hearts, 10 9 of Hearts, Jack 9 of Hearts, Queen 9 of Hearts, not Queen 9. He could have King 9 of Hearts, 9 8 of Hearts, 8 7 of Hearts, 7 6 of Hearts, and 6 5 Hearts. So he could have all of these in hearts, right?
Right.
Pretty easy.
And then all the flushes.
Well, yeah, I'm just putting in these for hearts. We're trying to give him a range to see how you're doing. So would he do this with King Queen with the King of Hearts? Probably. What about King Jack and King 10, all with the King of Hearts?
Absolutely.
So I'm going through here, and we're going to select the heart one. Okay. And now what made hands is he going to do this with? I mean, I don't really see too many made hands he could have. He could have ace 3, I guess. Ace 3 suited. I mean, what else could this guy even have?
I don't know because being a crazy, he could have King Jack offsuit. I mean, it's like, just trying to bluff, semi bluff in a way. Hopefully, I don't have a flush. I mean, if I'm sort of representing a flush here, I think. I don't know.
Well, I feel like whenever people bet in this spot, I feel like they're going to have either a made hand they think is good, or they're going to have a good draw.
Right.
So, I mean, we gave him... I have him here, King Jack offsuit over here, but it's King Jack offsuit with the King of Hearts.
Right.
So those are effectively semi-bluffs. Anyways, I think this is going to be the range you're against most of the time.
Okay.
And, you see you're actually in pretty good shape. So 33% equity, and you see over here, you need to win 25% of the time.
Right.
So you got to call. Even though I still think
I'm not liking it.
You're not liking it, exactly. So if this guy's range gets much tighter than this, like let's say we know he's not going with maybe one or two of these or something like that. I guess what I'm saying is I think this is about as tight as the spot's going to be. But by betting, you put yourself in a pretty bad spot where your opponent can never really bluff. And you always want to let the guy have the opportunity to bluff.
Okay.
So anyways, you get it in and you win. So here you raise this to a min raise. I'm fine with a min raise in general. I think at the final table, initially when we start with 100 big blinds, you may want to make it a little bit bigger.
Right, I was going to ask you about that. I know that there's a theory of 3 times, 2.5 times, 2 times, depending on the how deep you are.
Yeah, that's generally what I prescribe to, is the deeper you are, the more you should be making it. And that sort of even goes more so for when you have to get all the chips, because going broke is not that big of a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you want to make making it smaller in a normal tournament is because you really don't want to go broke, because there's value in surviving. I mean, are you like okay with the idea that you're not really trying to play for second or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay. Because
yeah,
I mean, I guarantee you 2 or 3 guys at that table are going to be like, look, I really need 10K, so
right. Yeah.
I got to get my 10K locked up.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you right now. Well, I mean, I've been saving all my life, and we have enough to retire right now, so it's not a big deal for that. $1 million would be, life changing, but as I said, 50,000 is not going to. It's like almost like a rounding error.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. So what I suggest you do actually at the party the day before is try to talk to the guys and see what they're like, see who you can...
absolutely. I'm going to try to pump them with as much information as I can first.
Yeah,
sure.
I remember one of my final tables I caught when this guy really needed to take 4 so he could pay off his house. And so I just abused the guy to death, and sure enough, he got 4th place. He was thrilled.
Good.
I mean, he was happy, I was happy. But, I mean... just see who you're playing with, because some of these people probably have the exact incorrect mindsets, and if they need to get $10,000, bully them around until they get their $10,000, and then expect them to go crazy.
Right.
Because that's exactly what the guy did who I was playing with. He super knitted it up till he got 4th place, then he started playing every hand, and it wasn't shocking. I mean, I remember whenever I got it all in right off the bat, some blogger out there who was watching it, some effect of John just made this absurd call because this guy. He's been tight this whole time. Now Jonathan just calls off with ace-10, no problem. But it was clearly a good call. The guy had jack-4 or something. So you need to be aware of that stuff. Just do your best to figure out that, while also not giving away so much information about yourself.
Right. Oh, I understand that.
At the same time, be friendly, but don't.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. I'm a very friendly guy. Usually in a tournament, I will look at the prize fund. I say I want to finish 4th or 6th or something. And then when I get to there, I don't care. I try to still play well. I don't go crazy. But once I get there, I'm very fearless, and I often end up winning the tournament because, I've made my goal.
So where are we at in this one?
Well, no, my goal is to finish first. So,
well, there we go.
So, there's no after that. But, yeah, so, that's why I contacted you, because I figured, gives him my best chance. So
yeah, I think it's very. I mean, I wonder what percentage of people are even going to do any coaching beyond just talking to their friends about hands and stuff.
Yeah, I see. I don't know anything about these people, so I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
You may find Antonio and Daniel on the rail talking to people. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, and if so, we'll deal with it. But I would assume that most people are not going to get too much help, and if they do, it's probably not going to be like very good help. It's probably going to be just okay help.
Yep.
Do you have the capability to set up a home sit and go type thing to practice with people?
No, not really. No.
Okay. I was thinking that could be good to like just run a home game one time or something.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything like that.
Okay, no problem. We can play online. It'll be fun. Online on that site, do they have satellite type tournaments where they're one table satellites where the winner gets a seat to something?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what we need to be playing.
Yeah, I think they do. Well, they mostly have super satellite sort of things where they give like 5 prizes away or something, but that's a little different.
Yeah,
I don't know if they actually have one. I don't know.
We need one table, so search for
Yeah,
those.
actually, actually I qualified by accident for the 10K daily. I put $100 in my account, and I accidentally clicked on the $20 Hypo Turbo, so I couldn't get out of it. So I won. So I got to play in the 10K. So I'm playing the 10K. I was doing okay, and this guy's raising every other hand, and so short stock shoved. I have queens, so I shoved. The guy calls. He's got kings.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, so that's okay. But it was fun.
Yeah, poker's funny sometimes. You just sit down and misclick it in some term you didn't want to. You end up winning the thing.
Yeah.
Every Sunday on PokerStars, they have one tournament where it's an ante-only tournament where there are no blinds, but they're just giant antes. And
yeah, they have them here too.
Every Sunday, like clockwork, I misclick and get in the stupid thing. And almost every time I final table it, it's absurd. But
Okay,
even though I have no clue how to play it, just go all in.
Yeah, I started playing that, and I played a couple of them, just low-level ones. And, I got on the bubble a couple times. But it's like you basically have to shove it at some point, because it just, every round costs you so much.
Yeah, it's very, very big.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
anyways, in this, I would probably 3 times a blind it,
Okay.
but I don't think it matters too incredibly much. Also, you need to try to figure out as soon as you get to the table which size raises guys are calling and what everyone else is doing, and figure out what you can do about it. So if you see guys folding to 3 times the big blind raises and calling 2 big blind raises, I think given this tiny window we have, we don't need to be so concerned with being balanced. We can be more concerned with, okay, I need to be raising smaller of my good hands or raising bigger of my junk hands.
Okay.
Because they're folding to big raises and they're calling small raises. Normally that'd be absurd because people would figure this out really quick. But you have to realize every blind level you're going to be playing something like 10 hands or 15 hands. So no one's really going to be able to figure out exactly what you're doing. They're just going to think you're putting chips in the pot. So...
well, I'm curious to see how good these players are. I mean, they have to have some skill to get through 2,000 people. But they're probably just lucky like me, so...
Well, you sound pretty intelligent just from talking to you. You don't sound like, a random guy.
No, I'm not. I work for Bell Labs. I'm a computer programmer. I have a bachelor's of math and master's of computer science, so I'm fairly well educated.
Yeah, so this is a good thing. We have a good thing in this situation. So,
I got 2 callers.
yeah, okay. This hand, you're raising 2 callers. You flop the flush draw. You bet some. Something I noticed right off the bat is you half potted it. Last hand you half potted it. This hand, I tend to shy away from ever using any sort of half pot buttons, just because I feel like those put you in a routine of just betting half pot every time. And I'm not sure half pot's the ideal bet to bet every time, because sometimes you're going to be betting smaller, sometimes you're going to bet bigger. I mean, maybe you just did it. I mean, I don't think it's bad in either of these 2 spots, but it's just something I see immediately that I just want to point out, because maybe it'll come up later and we'll discuss it.
Okay, well, on live I don't have to worry about a button.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm sure you can keep track of the pot, and then you just might bet half pot every time, because that's just what you do.
Yep. Well, no, I don't. On live I do vary it a little bit, but it's sometimes hard for me to actually type in. I mistype and then it blocks me out.
Okay. Well, that's a very
easier.
good reason.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it goes crazy and it just locks me out. So, because it's an invalid amount or something. Because it's sort of hard with this. I don't have a keyboard. I have a keyboard on my laptop, but it's not as easy.
Oh, so you were playing this on your phone or iPad or something?
No, it's. I actually bought a laptop for this. I bought a little Envy, HP Envy, which is like a tablet.
But it doesn't have
it didn't work very well. It kept freezing on me. So I went to Brigada Support, and they said, yeah, it happens a lot. So I actually went out and bought a Toshiba, a nice Toshiba. And it was really cheap. It was a 17.3 screen, 17.3 inch screen. It has a terabyte hard drive and 8 gig of memory, and it was $440.
Yeah, computers are almost free nowadays. It's kind of
crazy.
I
know. So I'm using that. Although today it kind of went crazy. So I don't know.
These computers are a mess, I tell you. I mean, I pretty much just buy a new one every year because something goes wrong, and if something goes wrong on a Sunday when I got to play online, it just costs so much money.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of an insurance policy to have a new one and an old one ready to go.
Yeah, so I have a new one and an old one now. So even though the old one's pretty new, it's only like a month old, but it's the old one now.
Well, hopefully they'll get their support fixed or their program fixed.
Yeah, they sent back a lot of other people having the same problem working on it. Great. So I'm watching the 10K last Sunday or the Sunday before, and one table freezes.
Oh wow.
And everyone else is playing, and they're typing, WTF, and so, and then they cancel the tournament after an hour.
Oh man.
So yeah.
They're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Okay.
Anyways, you have pot, they fold. Nothing really to see there.
Yeah.
Queen Jack suited under the gun, so you limp in. Why are we limping in?
That's a good question. I usually raise, but this time I figured, well, I'll just see if everyone limps, and then I can get something, because people have been limping, I think, a lot on this table.
Yes, I think that if you min raise, you're going to get almost the same amount of callers as you would if you limp, but you make the pot a little bit bigger. And you also take initiative in the hand so that you can expect to get paid off a little bit lighter when you do hit.
Okay.
Because if you limp and say 3 or 4 guys limp and you flop a flush or something, if you bet, they're going to assume you have it because you're not really a pre-flop raiser. Whereas if you raise pre-flop and say 2 or 3 or 4 guys call and then you flop a flush and you bet, they're going to think you're just making a continuation bet.
Okay.
So that's going to make them more prone to pay you off.
Well, that's interesting, yeah.
So, and also the difference between putting in 80 chips and 40 chips pre-flop is not that much at all.
No, it's nothing.
It's not like it bloats the pot or anything.
Right.
So you're pretty much always going to want to raise pre-flop. I don't really think there's any situation you want to be limping in from early position, especially if your opponents are not great. And if your opponents are great, you just want to fold from early position with stuff like this. If we're playing the sit and go, though, the sit and go is going to be 8-handed. So I would definitely raise under the gun with this every time. I can't really foresee a spot where I would not raise with it under the gun. In a regular sit and go, where you have to get first, second, or third, you cannot be... You probably want to fold this from under the gun, because there's a lot of value in surviving, but in this one, you definitely want to play this type of hand. If you had something like 7-6 suited under the gun, I'd probably fold most of the time. Although raising's fine whenever you're deep stacked, but once you start getting like 30-ish big blinds, you can probably fold. I was trying to give you examples of spots where I would be playing.
Right, I understand, yeah.
But yeah, so whatever. I would definitely raise, though. If I'm going to play it, I'm going to raise. I'm not limping in. I mean, are you okay with that?
Yep.
And the real reason is you don't mind winning the pot. It's not that big of a deal. And if you put in 40 and you miss, you're probably not going to have that easy of a time winning the pot, because someone's likely to have something. I say winning the pot when you miss, I mean. Whereas when you raise, you're going to have a little bit easier time winning it if you raise and say one guy calls or something like that.
Yeah, well, my general philosophy is to raise whenever I enter a pot. I mean, I'm not quite sure at this point why I just call that, but my philosophy is to always raise.
Okay, so that's fine. I mean, like, so say you raise this pre-flop and then all these guys called, I would probably bet the flop. And I would just expect most people to fold when they don't have an ace. So say you raise the pre-flop to 80, and say a small blind folds, and we take it 3 ways, and there's something like 260 in the pot. I'd probably bet something like 120 or something like that. So, you're betting something probably around half pot or a little bit less than half pot, and you are giving yourself a really good price to steal it when your opponents have nothing, and if they have nothing, they're just going to fold and you're going to win. And if they call, then you can probably get out of the way.
Yeah, so I'm asking if they have an ace, and they say yes or no, and then I can proceed.
Correct.
Yeah.
If I peeled a diamond, I would definitely bet again, but you're doing that more so then so that you can just make a big pot when you actually get there on the river. I would not expect people to fold too often if they call the flop in that spot. So this is a good fold. Out of the small blind and the big blind, whenever someone raises, you're not going to want to call very often at all whenever you're facing a big raise. If you are in the big blind and someone min raises, you can start calling somewhat often, but even then you can't be calling stuff like King 5 unless you really know something about their game.
Yeah, I love to min raise, and then they call and they check, I bet, and they fold. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's ideal. And so what you have to do if you're in that guy's shoes is he knows you're going to bet every time, so now he has to start check raising a lot.
Right.
And that leads to some kind of nasty spots, but it's it's fine as long as you know your opponent's going to bet too often. So, like if you know your opponent's going to bet 100% of the time, then you can just check raise every flop, or at least flops that are bad for your opponent's range.
Right. I do that later on. I reviewed all the hands. I did that later on with a open-ended straight draw where I had low cards and he continuation bet and I just shoved and he folded.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's what you need to be doing whenever you think your opponent's going to do something and they do. All right. So what do you think about this Queen 4 offsuit?
Let's see. I just call, I guess.
See, I think I'd probably fold this, even though you're getting good odds. The thing is that you're in the worst position, and also you don't really have a good hand that can actually put money in the pot, unless you get 2 pair, and that's pretty tough. So I think I'd probably just fold.
How many times have I popped my trip 4s here?
Also, I guess it's worth mentioning from the small blind, whenever, say someone raises and you're in the small blind, you like to call and the big blind calls, you have what's called the worst relative position. You know about this? Where
Sure, yeah.
You have to worry about the big blind. So if this guy bets, now it's up to you, and you don't know what this guy's going to do.
Right.
So you really just don't want to play in the
you
small
always
blind.
like to be last action.
Yeah, well, you certainly don't want to be the guy in the middle.
Yep.
It's okay if you're first, it's okay if you're last, but the guy in the middle is the guy who's in really bad shape. So, and even though you're actually first, you're actually in the middle, because this guy's going to bet most of the time. If he raised pre-flop.
Right.
All right, so I would have just folded this, but I fold a lot in the small blind, and I'm pretty convinced it's fine, because just not much good comes from these spots. And I mean, like right here, this is a very good flop, but even then, say you bet and then someone raises in the real sit and go, you can't be thrilled. So you have a few options. You can either call, check raise, or bet. And I mean, how do you feel about them?
Well, I like this flop. I mean, it's I don't know. I've got a backdoor flush draw and I got top pair with a bad kicker.
Time out. Backdoor flush draw. This is not a good backdoor flush draw.
No, well, yeah.
You do not want to hit your flush. So do not look at this 4 of spades and think that is a benefit to this hand.
Okay.
That's actually a detriment to this hand, if anything.
Okay. Well, my experience with 3 people that hit a flush, if there's like 4 flush cards on the board, it's kind of unlikely for some. It's just my experience that people usually don't have. I'll be very cautious, but a lot of times if there's 4 flush on the board, you have a spade. In this case, they don't have a flush.
Yeah, it's probably good. But then when a lot of money goes in,
well, a lot of money comes in. Forget it.
Well, I mean, say even you check and they bet.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even a lot of money. It's just some money.
Right. So if they have like king queen, I still have a 25% chance. Well, I can hit a 4, so that's not very good. So my guess is to bet here, and then if I get action, probably fold.
So say you bet, and this guy skipper over here raises. Say you make it 80, and the skipper makes it 240. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, I'll probably fold.
Okay, so I think this is fine as long as you don't think skipper's ever getting out of line, and of course we don't know anything about skipper.
I have no idea. Yeah, skipper.
So because I have no clue about skipper, I think a better play is to check and try to get to showdown. Whereas if you bet and get raised or even called, you can never be thrilled. I mean, because say you bet and they call you with Jack 10 or something, it's not like that's an amazing spot for you. Because they're going to be in position and you don't really know what outs are theirs.
Right.
Because they could have Jack 10 or Jack 9 or King Jack.
They
You
could
don't
have,
know.
Right. They could have a flush draw, straight draw.
Right. So I don't think betting is going to lead to this hand playing out the cleanest to where you can realize your equity almost every time. I think if you bet, what's going to happen?
They could have 5-4 too, I guess.
That's
Call
true.
with 5-4, and you don't know.
Yeah, so I think if you bet, a lot of stuff can go bad, but if you check, the only thing that can really go bad is you can just get outdrawn and then lose 2 more bets. That's the worst thing that can happen. And by checking, you make your hand look way weaker than it is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You don't really want your hand to look like what it is, and especially if you're going to play it like what it is. And you said you're already going to bet, have a guy raise, and you're going to fold. So, I mean, that's exactly what people expect you to do with top pair bad kicker. So I feel like betting it is sort of what people do face up, but you don't want to be face up. You want to be concealed.
Okay.
And I think by check calling, people would check call with a queen or a jack or maybe a 5 or maybe a middle pair or maybe a straight draw of some sort, maybe a flush draw.
I would put me in a flush draw then.
Yeah, and see, what I would what I want people to not be able to do is to put you on a flush draw. I want people to have no clue what you have. They can have a clue. They can know you have either some made hand or some draw. You don't want them to be able to compartmentalize your ranges based on your actions. You want it to be really confusing to them so that they don't really know how to proceed well. And I kind of feel like when a guy leads out here, he's going to have something like a top pair bad kicker, middle pair good kicker, maybe some sort of random draw that he doesn't think is good enough to check call with or check raise with. So knowing that, I probably would go after that and attack it. And I think it'd be a good play. And I mean, you already said you were betting with the intention of folding, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, if I'm skipper, I'm just raising this every time for sure. And, well, I'm actually going to raise it every time with a bluff. So whenever I raise, you actually know that I'm bluffing. But
yeah.
so I think actually what I would probably do if I was bluffing here, I'd make it a little bit bigger than if I was value betting. Because if you're value betting, you don't want your opponent to fold. Like say you're sitting over a queen jack, you want to raise small to something like 180. Maybe 200. But if you're bluffing, you probably want to make it a little bit bigger to try to force out almost everything.
And then I'm in the middle again.
Yeah, you're still in the middle. I mean, like I said, this is just a bad spot.
Yeah.
And so even here, you bet and get called, and you're not happy. So skipper calls, which is kind of odd. Maybe he actually does have some pair, maybe a jack, most likely. Well, now that you led, I mean, I guess I'd bet again.
Yeah.
I would assume I have the best hand. You bet 40 though. So why are we betting 40?
I think I misclicked.
What would you normally bet?
I'd probably bet half the pot again. I'm just as a default.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go a little bit bigger because I think you're against. Again, we can't put people squarely on one hand. We have to put them on a range of hands. So this Trailblazer guy could easily have a queen or a jack or a draw. And the same thing I think goes for skipper for the most part. He probably has a queen, a jack, or a draw. And it's kind of dicey value betting because we lose to the queens, but I think there are enough jacks and draws in there that we can easily bet for value. So I'd probably bet a little bit on the bigger side to try to get full value, so maybe like 180 or 200.
Okay.
And also that gives the draws a bad price. Of course, when you bet 40, everyone's going to call.
Everyone's going to lie, absolutely.
All right, so ace is bad. I would just check. But you bet 40 again, so why are we doing this?
Well, just to see if it has an ace. I don't know, because they're not going to, even if they have an ace, they may not raise because they're afraid of 2 pair, or maybe have a king 10 or something.
So my problem with a blocking bet is that when you blocking bet, you are putting in money hoping to get called by a better hand.
Hoping to get called by a worse hand.
Well, you're hoping, but you have to realize if a guy's sitting here with a jack, I mean, I guess if he has a jack, he's still going to call. So I guess you can get, I mean, but you have to realize the amount of value you're getting is none, right? So
So you'd either check or bet like 300 or so.
I mean,
ace. I don't like an ace. I don't know.
I think I'm check folding this one.
Okay.
I mean, I think the ace just nails their ranges pretty hard. I mean, if they have ace jack, they could easily have ace jack. They could easily have ace 5. They could easily have king 10. They could have an ace high flush draw. They could have ace 10. I mean, there are just so many things they could have that the ace hits. So I think I would check this, and if someone bets, I would probably just get out of there, unless they bet 40 or something.
Right.
So this guy calls, and he did have the jack. So
yeah, jack, it worked out.
It did work. It did work out, but again, you got to be careful. Just because it works out does not necessarily mean it was good.
I understand. Yeah.
All right. So in this hand, if this was the sit and go, and we saw this guy limping pretty regularly, I would definitely raise to around 160. I think that's going to give you a lot of fold equity pre-flop. And if he does call, that's fine because you're in position with a hand he's not going to expect you to have. You agree with that?
Yes.
So I guess my question would be, why not raise in this spot?
That's a good question. I look at my hand. I don't really like it, so I throw it away. That's my thinking. I don't. I think raising is perfectly fine here, but
okay. Well, I think particularly in this tournament. I mean, how many people played in this tournament that you played in? A lot, right?
2,400, 2,048.
So you have to realize also in this tournament, first place is worth $125,000.
Yep.
And second place is worth 700.
700.
Okay, so that.
Yeah. Well, see, when I'm playing though, I want to tell you that I had no idea what I was playing for. I never looked it up. I thought this was just another qualifier for like a year long worth of qualifiers or something. I really didn't look it up at all. It's a free tournament, so I'm just playing in it. So I think if I had known what I was playing for, I probably would not have won.
Yeah, this poker is an easy game sometimes, huh? You just look down and they give you lots of money.
Yep.
You're sure you're in the satellite, right? The sit and go thing, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
I got a call back from Regatta saying congratulations. So that really nails it.
All right. So knowing that, I mean, just like tournament theory in general, if you're playing a 2,000 person tournament and first place is the only thing of significant value, you really have to be getting after it.
Okay.
Trying to win like every pot, and that needs to be taken to the extreme in this exact tournament. But in the sit and go, we're gonna be playing it. You don't have to be so extreme because it's way easier to get 7 people's money than it is to get 2,000s.
Right.
But whatever. I would definitely go after this one and raise, even in any normal situation, because this guy's limping in some. He's probably just not that good of a player. And if the guy's limping in with a lot, they're usually limping in hoping to just get a good hand after the flop. And you're going to steal it a lot of the time. Why do you say you don't think you would have won it if you knew what you were playing for?
Well, I was a crazy person. I I was putting a lot of pressure on these people, and I think some of my plays are really probably fairly bad, but they worked out. I never lost a great deal of chips in any hand, which is very unusual. Towards the middle, I was hovering between like 16,000 and 20,000 for a long time, and then the blinds caught up with me. And then after that, I had a lot of chips, and I didn't really have to worry about much.
Okay.
But it was just so lucky because I never, even the hands where I was dominated, or ace 10 or ace jack versus kings, and I catch an ace. So I mean, it was really that kind of tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's how it goes when you win 2,000 person tournaments. Just everything goes right.
Right.
All right. So my question is, why in the world did you not limp in last hand with the 9-8, but you limp in with the 8-6 offsuit now?
I'm the dealer. I don't know.
Well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Why is that situation in your mind better than this situation? Because this situation is a million times better.
Right. I can't answer that. I don't remember.
Okay, so I look at this and I see just sort of a general flaw in logic.
Okay.
Because, I mean, in this one you're against the late position guy, so that means he's going to have junk more often. So you're going to be able to win the hand more often. Maybe and this hand's also just better, right? 9-8's way better than 8-6.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why he did that, but just something to be aware of that, I don't know why you did this. And whenever you're doing anything at the poker table, you need to be thinking, why am I doing this? And why did I not do that last one? And if, maybe there was a good reason. I don't think there's a good reason in this one, but maybe there was a good reason.
Well, my wife says you only play hands you feel lucky on. Which I said, well, that's a very good theory, but...
You know math, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I know. I keep telling her, but she's like, no, if you have aces and you don't feel lucky, you should throw them away.
Yeah. Well, if you know you're going to lose, yeah, of course.
Right, of course.
So that 9-8 was going to lose, apparently. But I don't see a purpose in limping with this.
No, I don't. No, I don't either.
If this was 8-6 suited, I would definitely limp, because then we have a hand that has a little bit more potential. If it was 9-8 offsuit, I would fold. I think 8-6 suited is probably just a little bit better than 9-8. I mean, you have to realize, whenever you're playing these middle hands, you're not trying to get one pair, right?
Right.
You're trying to get two pairs, so two pair are better. So the way you do that is by having lots of possibilities, and just 8-6 offsuit has no possibilities.
Right.
Although we're probably about to see different. Well, how do you feel about this?
Well, I certainly have equity here. Can catch a 6, an 8, or a 9 because I don't know what he has. I have no idea what he has here. I might have 2 high cards. He probably has a 10 here. I'm guessing he has a 10, like King 10 or something.
All right, so.
But that kind of range. I don't think he has a pair of deuces or something like that. I don't think he has a straight either here because I do have a blocker.
Yeah, it's pretty tough for him to have a straight. I definitely think he's going to have something like top pair most of the time. One thing you mentioned is that you think an 8 is good. The problem with the 8, it's sort of similar to how you mentioned the 4 of spades as a backdoor out a minute ago. It's not really a backdoor out. It's kind of just a crap out.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent actually has a good hand, you're going to end up losing a lot of money on that card. So it's almost the reverse of an out.
Right.
So your only real outs here are the 6 or the 9.
9, yeah.
So just hearing you say that twice, and since we've been talking, it makes me think that maybe you're overvaluing some of the weaker ends of the draws.
Okay.
And that kind of thing will really hurt you if you're like, oh, sweet, I got 2 pair, now I can put money in. But in reality, the guy just has a 9 and you lose all your money.
Right.
I felt my dad a lot learn to play poker, and he has that problem sometimes where he sees an out he thinks is great, but in reality it's just sort of like the death out, the one you just never want to hit.
Right.
And that's definitely what the 8 is in this spot. Because I don't think this guy has a 9 all the time, but he certainly could have a 9.
Right. So after reading Slansky, he's talking about outs and partial outs, and you can count like half of an out for something like that. And
well, I don't even think they count as. I don't even look at it as. I don't think it. What am I trying to say? When I look at this hand, I don't really see outs and not outs. I think more so of post flop playability. Like how when am I going to be able to proceed happily, and when am I not going to be able to proceed happily? And I feel like an 8 is, it's good if he checks, but if he bets, then it's not good.
Right.
So you have to be able to realize that if the guy does check to you, this is now a pretty good spot, and if the guy bets again, you have a pure bluff catcher.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I guess I don't really think about outs in general as a thing, which may sound weird because that's what every book talks about, but.
Right. Well, I mean, I try to calculate outs and odds and stuff and pot odds and outs. So, but that's my main way of thinking about them.
Well, yeah. Well, you're going to find that in No Limit Hold'em, you're almost always getting the right odds to call. Odds plus implied odds.
Right.
As long as you have any sort of draw that has some amount of outs. So I don't think you need to be too concerned with that in general. I mean, most people are. You're very rarely getting the exact right pot odds, immediate pot odds, but you're almost always getting the implied odds.
Well, here I don't put him on a 9 because I don't think he'd bet with a 9 here on the flop.
Well, what would he do? What would he do with 10-9 on the flop?
Well, 10-9 I think he'd bet.
What would he do
but
with
that's
pocket
the only
nines?
hand I think. Well, pocket 9s, yeah, pocket 9s and 10-9 are the only hands you could have that would bet.
What would he do with 9-8?
Well, he'd bet.
Yeah,
and
I keep finding hands that have
know
9s in them.
At this point, if he bets here and he has 9-8, I'm sure he'll bet here because I've got a flush draw possible now. Backdoor. I know it's a backdoor flush draw, but I think he'd bet here for sure if he had 9-8.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if he has any 9, he'll bet again.
Yeah.
So I think if he bets, I think you have to call, but you're not happy about calling.
Right.
So I feel like you're really quick to discount random parts of your opponent's range for no legitimate reason.
Okay.
You're just like, oh, this doesn't make up much of his range, therefore he can't have it.
Right.
Because, of course, 10-9 and 9-8 and pocket 9s make up a very tiny percentage of the guy's range. I definitely agree with that, but I don't think it's impossible by any means.
No, I don't think so either. I don't really like that 8. I don't think I like that 8 very much.
Well, I mean, if you think he never has a 9, then the 8's the nuts.
Right.
But I think he could have a 9, so don't just immediately say, okay, he can't have this, period. It seems like, in general, you're trying to put the guy on a very tight range.
Right. I think that's a very big problem I have always.
Yeah, so try to keep the range just a little bit wider. Keep it a little bit, open. Just don't just cut stuff out for no good reason. So, my question would be, what would make you cut out pocket 9s on the flop? And I don't think there's any reason.
No, there's no reason. No reason at all.
No reason at all. Same thing goes for 10-9 and 9-8. Mm-hmm. No reason at all to cut those out from the range. And just because the 8 comes in, that's still not a reason to cut out those hands. All that matters is, what does this guy's flop bet mean, and could he be doing this with a 9? And the answer is yes. So,
yep.
So don't just get rid of those.
Okay.
All right, so anyways, he bets tiny on the turn, and now you probably have it whenever he bets tiny. So...
Yeah, especially with the flush draw, straight draws, and everything else, I think he's really scared here.
Yeah, this guy probably has top pair or an overpair almost every time, so I would raise this for value at this point. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I just said if the guy bets, you have to be unhappy, but now when he makes this tiny bet instead of a normal bet like 400, we're automatically thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you agree with that?
Yes.
So if I raise, I don't think I want to raise big because I think I might blow him off of his hand, but I think I do want to put more money in the pot. So I'd probably make it 240 or something. So you go a little bit bigger, and I'm okay with this, but you want to make sure that you're not setting yourself up to where you're only getting called by better hands. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's probably too much, because if he doesn't have anything, he's going to fold. Or even top pair, I think he might fold here.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, you have to quantify what is something, right?
Yeah.
And I think something that he could possibly have is something like Jack 10, Queen 10, King 10, Ace 10, maybe Jacks. That's about it. The problem is when you start making it really big, like let's say you made it 500, right? Then he's only going to continue with something like sets or better, and you lose to all those.
Right.
So now all of a sudden you're bluffing. So as you start making it a little bit bigger, you're going to start bluffing your opponent off of hands that you want him to call with. So that's why I would have went more like 240, because I think I could still reasonably get called by top pair.
Okay.
But I think when you start getting more close to like 375, 400, 500, that's when it starts getting kind of nasty to where he's only going to call with a set. And he could have a set. It's not impossible.
Right. Here I'm kind of saying I have a 9 here, I guess.
Well, I think you're saying I either have a 9 or I'm bluffing.
Right.
It's definitely very polarized. This is called polarized, this situation.
Right. Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
So I don't think you want to polarize yourself so much. That's the thing. I think whenever you make it big, I think it just really tilts it towards a good hand. And you don't want him to know you have a good hand. All right, so he calls. Oh, that's a pretty bad river. It's not really bad because a 5's pretty unlikely. But it's bad in that it's going to make it more difficult for you to get paid off.
Right.
It should make it more difficult for you to get paid off anyways. If he checks, I think I'd bet small. I think there's still value to be had, so I'd probably bet something like 360 or something like that on the river. So you go check, and he does have pretty good hand. And I think he probably would have looked you up for 360.
Yeah.
I think when you go as big as you went on the turn, when you bet 375 on the turn, I think you should be more prone to check back the river, because then that means he's going to have more 2-pair combinations in his hand whenever he does call your turn bet.
Right.
Compared to just top pair and random, whatever, ace 8 he just happens to have. Although that's probably impossible. So yeah, I would have bet the river though. I think you have the best hand on the river pretty much every time. Your opponent's range is almost squarely a 10 or better. And if you bet small, you'll get called by those. Well, you may get called by those. I don't think you're getting called by those every time. But I definitely think you have the best hand almost every time, and you're going to get called some percentage of the time by worse hands if you bet small.
It's interesting he limped in before the flop.
I think that's what a lot of weak players do. They limp in. They're hoping to, I guess, trap people, hoping people raise.
And then he let me catch up.
And then he let you catch up. Yeah, I mean, well, how else? How could your opponent have played this hand differently? I guess that's the question. I mean, clearly he should just raise pre-flop.
Yeah, raise pre-flop, I fold, he wins the hand.
But I mean, if he knew he can limp and let you in with 8-6 offsuit, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would love to have you in with 8-6 offsuit when I have kings.
Right.
So on the flop, he bet big. I think this is actually a mistake because that's going to make people fold out stuff.
Right.
But whatever, you call. Now the 8 comes and he does this min bet. So I think whenever he does this min bet and you raise, it really puts him in a terrible spot.
Right.
I think if he checks and you bet, I think he's still in a pretty bad spot. But I think by doing it this way, it becomes somewhat clear that he has something pretty good. And if you know he has something pretty good and you're still putting money in the pot, that's not a good spot for him.
So it's a very weak player to play. When he bets 60, I mean, I figure he has, he doesn't like his hand much. And he must have a pretty good hand, but he doesn't like it anymore. I mean, it's a very weak player to bet 60 here, I think.
Yeah, it's a super face-up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played this hand about as face-up as any straightforward amateurish type player could do.
Okay.
And because of that, knowing that, you definitely got him on the turn, but then on the river, I think you missed out a little bit on the river.
Okay.
Because even though, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that beats you, right?
Yep.
I think that it's still pretty clear he has something like a 10 or better.
Well, sometimes if I have this is a pretty good hand, but on this board it's not a great hand.
See,
I will.
the board does.
Well, I'm afraid if I bet he's just going to shove and I have to fold. That's kind of one of my fears.
Okay, so ask yourself, if you're in this guy's shoes with kings and somebody bets, are you shoving?
No, I don't know if he has kings. I mean,
Well, say you have ace 10, are you shoving?
No, I don't
Well, if
think
you got
so.
king 10, are you going to shove?
Probably not.
No, absolutely you're not. You're gonna.
So
You're gonna.
so based on what he's done, I know he doesn't have a 9 or a 5.
Well, I think a 5 is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think a 9 is pretty unlikely too, given that he just called your raise. I feel like if he had a 9, he may even re-raise the turn small to kind of mess around a little bit and hopefully make you go crazy. I certainly don't think he's just going to check to you again on the river, because then he's just praying you bluff, right?
Right.
And I mean, why would he expect you to bluff? I don't think he has a good reason to expect you to bluff.
Okay.
So no, I think this guy's range is so clear on the river that I think it's a spot where you have to throw out a small value bet. And again, you have to go small, because if you go big, he's going to fold out stuff like kings.
Right.
This is a tricky hand, because you have to. Your opponent did his absolute best to tell you exactly what he had.
Right.
And then you have to play accordingly to try to get full value out of it on this river, because the river is scary. And you mentioned that on boards like this, but the board is not really what matters. What matters is the whole situation. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
I think a lot of people look for situations they can use as generic examples in their mind, where they're like, oh, the board's clearly there's lots of straights out, so I don't bet with 2 pair. Duh, right?
Yeah.
But there are fringe cases where I think it's really clear to bet, and this is one of those really fringe cases. I mean, I would say on a board like this, like if I just woke up on this river and you asked me what I bet, I'd say no. But
Well, the opposite thing to think is maybe if I bet anything, he's going to fold, because he might have ace king. I don't know. Even ace 10 here in this board. I mean, he might not. He's a little bit short on chips, not that bad, but he might not call anything. So if you bet he folds anyway, you're not going to get anything. That's another way of looking at it, I think.
He may fold everything, but I think when he calls your fairly large turn raise, he has something that he perceives as good enough. And if you give him a really good price on the river, I think he's just going to find a call.
Okay. Yeah, because by betting so much, he must have something. So he's not going to fold for a small bet. It's kind of weird betting large on the turn and small on the river. Isn't that kind of suspicious?
Well, you actually didn't bet big on the turn. I mean, he made it 60, made it 375. I mean,
Right.
you're making it like a half pot raise, so it's not like it's actually big. It's just big compared to this.
Right.
But he's still willing to put money in.
Yeah.
It's not like he's putting in change or anything. It's not like you made a 120, he called the min raise.
Right.
So I think he has something he thinks is good enough. And yeah, but on the river you have to go small. Definitely in this spot you have to. Your opponent's range is marginal. So how do you get value out of marginal hands? The answer is you bet tiny, and tiny would probably be 300ish, 360ish, or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to watch the preview of this course. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get this entire course for 80% off, well, I have my holiday sale for you. I have many of my absolute best products that have helped my students take their skills to the next level available for you at a fraction of their normal cost, about 80% off. As you see here, we have the Montreal Masterclass, where I go through one of my recent deep runs. I think I took 8th place out of 1,000 or so people in a World Poker Tour event. Also, we have my Bigger 109 first place review, where I won the Bigger 109 a while back. Also, we have my $1 Million Coaching Series, my Crushing Cash Game Series, and my 1-2 Live Cash Game Webinar Series, where I go through lots and lots of hands that I played at 1-2 No Limit because, well, my students asked me to go through 1-2 No Limit hands, to go there, actually play, put in the time to see what they're dealing with, and show them how to actually crush those games, which fortunately I did. So definitely check those out if you want to take your tournament skills or your cash game skills to the next level. Also, I have pokercoaching.com. There I have over 650 interactive hand quizzes. If you've seen my podcast, Weekly Poker Hand, where I go through an interesting hand each week, well, this is relatively similar, except for instead of telling you what I do, I actually go through the hands street by street, and you have to tell me what you would do. And then I give you immediate feedback on your decision. Also, we have over 20 classes, kind of similar to the preview that you just watched, but a little bit more in depth on specific, concise topics. Also, 40 challenge webinars, where I put you in a scenario and ask you not how to play your hand, but how to play your entire range. And also over 30 coaching webinars that we have done with many other world-class pros who I have hand-selected to be poker coaching coaches. And also, every month we're adding new content. So if you are just part of pokercoaching.com, you get new, exciting content that you help me cultivate every single month, because I let the students request things, right? If you tell me you want a course on, let's say, the individual chip model, right, where we discuss how to play various stack sizes when they're payout applications. Well, if that's not already been covered, which it has, we'll make a video class on it, right? So that you can get exactly the education you need. Also, if you're a poker coaching member, we have a private Discord chat where you can ask questions. And also, we have backing opportunities. Every month, we put some of our students into live poker tournaments, because I realize everyone doesn't have the bankroll to get in there and play $500 or $1,000 buy-in tournaments. And I want to help you all out. So every month we back a few people to give them a chance to succeed at live poker tournaments that may be bigger than they are bankrolled to play. So normal price for poker coaching for a 1-month subscription is $39, but for the holiday sale, I will give you the first month for only $9. It's not very much money, but that's okay. I don't mind, because I know that if you become a poker coaching member, you will see immense improvements to your game relatively quickly. Also, I'm offering a 1, 2, or 3-year membership at a fraction of the cost. As you see, you can get 3 years for only $299, which is, goodness, a gigantic savings. So take advantage of that. And if you really want to take your game to the next level, I have Poker Coaching Premium. Here I have hired some of the absolute best players in the world who I want coaching me. I thought, who do I want coaching Jonathan Little? So I hired recently Michael Acevedo, who is the game theory expert. He just wrote a book, Modern Poker Theory, which is groundbreaking. Also, I thought, who are the most exploitative poker players in the world? And I hired Jonathan Jaffe recently, who, if you've never played with him, he is an absolute treat to play with, and he will put everyone in weird spots, and it seems like it just works out for him a lot. So I hired the world-class pros who have millions and millions of dollars in cashes to coach me to some extent, which in turn I'm using to help out all of my Poker Coaching Premium members. There, in addition to everything you get for poker coaching, you get even more quizzes. You get a whole lot more video classes on specific topics, over 110 at this point, and I'm adding new ones every single month. And also we have more and more exclusive webinars that are live and interactive, many of them are, with some of the best players in the world. So if you really want to take your skills to the next level, check out Poker Coaching Premium. That is part of the holiday sale at pokercoaching.com/holiday sale. Also, Poker Coaching Premium members get access to all of these courses that you see here. Over 65 of them. Again, whatever topics you want about poker, you will find. I have done my best over the last few years to cover every single aspect of No Limit Hold'em, so that whatever you want to learn about the game, you can find at Poker Coaching Premium. Normally, Poker Coaching Premium is $99 a month, but we'll give you the first month for $49 with the holiday sale. And, you can cancel anytime, but it turns out Poker Coaching Premium members are not canceling because they are getting immense value from it. I've had players who started off just over the last few months breaking even at 1-2 no limit, and they're already progressing to 2-5 no limit, making $50 an hour. Some of the players who started playing at 2-5, they're already up to 5-10, making $100 an hour or more because they have spent the time working hard on their skills using the materials that I have personally cultivated for all of you. I made Poker Coaching Premium to be the site that I wish I had when I started playing poker, and also the site I wish I had today, because really there's no other incredibly interactive site like this out there that continuously piles on value every single month. Also, if you want to get an annual membership, you can get that for half off, $649, which is a heck of a deal. If you plan on playing poker and you play more than like 1 to no limit or $50 buy-in tournaments, it's a no-brainer. It really is. I have been a member to many training sites. I have paid over $25,000 for private poker lessons, and I wish I actually spent more on that, because investing in yourself is one of the absolute best things you can do that will help you make more money long-term, which, well, money doesn't solve all your problems, but it sure makes them a whole lot easier. And once you become a great poker player where you can win $50 or $100 per hour, you're going to find then you can kind of do whatever you want in life. And I have the tools available for you to set you up for success. So check all this out right now at pokercoaching.com/holiday sale. Thanks for watching, and I hope the holidays treat you great.